Pow wow, yo, yippee, yay. This is pow number 50, and I'm super excited to be with you guys. As we talked about last time about the macro and essentially where we're heading within this current bull run, today contents, it's all about how to make sure that you time this market not only in the right way, that you really understand this cycle, you understand the forces that are behind the cycles, you understand as well how to play this cycle in the best way, how to pick the sectors to invest into crypto, but as well the best tokens that you could actually find within these different sectors. And here it's really to give you a formula that could hopefully enable you to build wealth on the long run. As you guys know, my name is Cyrus Vizel. I'm the proud founder and CEO of SwissBorg, always here to serve you. And on top of this, we'll talk about Alpha Vaults with GooPool, which just today was another sold out, and talk about what the Guardians are happening with the SwissBorg network. Before that, let's talk about the news of the week. Bitcoin tops 42. As you guys know, things are going quite smoothly. All-time high from 16,000 to 42,000 is quite a really crazy rally. This obviously has a lot to do with the fact that the ETF of Bitcoin is going to be approved sooner or later. But there's not only that. What's crazy about Kyber, the hacker, is that he stole like over $47 million. And he would only return any of these funds if he gets control of everything within Kyber, which seems quite crazy and controversial. So it might mean that this is someone that knows extremely well Kyber for a weird reason. And last but not least, well, Binance is about to end the support for BUSD. Completely makes sense. I think so. The stablecoins war is definitely something that they don't want to touch currently. Market updates. So as you guys know, markets are pricing, I think so, rate cuts for next year. This is something that's very, very important. That was triggered by the FOMC and the Fed recently. All in all, there's good positive, I would say, factors, which is that the jobs data was going good, cooling inflation, which is good. And more importantly, a record of inflows from institutional. This is really, really important to understand that a lot of people are, though, planning that essentially what is a good thing against inflation potentially is gold and as well of course Bitcoin itself. So this is really what is happening. And all we talked about the macro last week. We haven't changed anything from that. We still believe that next year people will eventually cut rates, which makes completely sense, hopefully by Q3 of next year. And this will be that a lot of people will be investing into essentially stocks, but as well crypto. But more importantly, let's now get into how to play the cycles in the best way, how to become a fantastic investor or potentially a trader by building the right habits and understanding what's next for crypto with first a top-down approach. So if we look from the up to down, and then the bottom-up approach, when we look from down to up. It's very, very different. These are two different plays that are very good, and it's very good to actually be investing in both ways. Really the macro picture, looking in sectors, where to invest, and then cherry-picking those very best cryptos that can enable you to do multiple X's, or on the opposite, lose a lot of percentage. So if you look what has happened, and history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? Mark Twain. We saw that one of the best tokens of all time has been L1s, right? If you look at these different prices from Ethereum itself, which went, these are not more, it should be more than that. It went maybe 7,000% more, 7,000 X's. BNB did very well. Polygon, Cardano, Solana, Quant, Cosmos, Chainlink, Torcham, and other ones. All of these guys have performed extremely well because it was the battle of L1s. It was very important from 2015 since Ethereum to still today to invest into L1s because they're the ones that has a very proven business model, and Ethereum is still not the number one blockchain. Right? There's a lot of different issues that goes with this L1. There's still a lot of space for other L1s, and potentially we'll see a world with multiple L1s. So this has been a space that has been extremely well done, especially until 2018. In 2020 and 2021, we saw new tokens doing the best performance, which one of them is Axie Infinity, and the other one is Sandbox. So you see that a lot of people in 2020 start focusing not only on L1s, but as well essentially on GameFi and trying to figure out what would be the best tokens that would enable to bring mass adoption to crypto. So you really see that here. There's definitely trends that has done. So far, it's really the L1s and essentially the games. But we did have some nice other good investments that happened in DeFi in 2020. So timing and threads, if you look at the token sale, you see that this goes to the same narrative we saw before, right? In a lot of blockchain services and infrastructure was done prior to the first cycle, right? And then in the second cycle, what we saw here, a lot went into DeFi and GameFi, these ones in green, as you can see. So this is where a lot of things have happened in the past, and therefore a lot of money was poured into it, and therefore some of them were very, very lucrative investments. And this is how you could potentially time cycles and invest in the right sectors, right? So if you look at what has happened in the past is that, well, 2012 was only Bitcoin, then in 2017 was different L1s and potentially some dApps. In 2020 was essentially DeFi, but as well some games that went quite well. And if you look at the next bull, which is currently right now, the end of 2023, 2024, and maybe beyond that, that will go probably to 8 to 10 trillion total market cap, which is 600% plus from what's today, which is actually quite nice when you think about it. You will probably need to find a good narrative. And the good thing is that we probably have the answer. Now, before getting to that right answer is where are we right now? And if you look at cycles, we could tailor down into 4 different parts of it, where you essentially have the accumulation phase, which happens right before the bull market, right? Where you need to really start buying into different cryptos in the best way possible. Then you have essentially the bull season that goes. Then you have the distribution phase that you should start to take some profits out of there. And then you have essentially the bear market, where essentially you should be only looking into having really great assets that will fight through it, which usually would be stable coins or would be gold or potentially some Bitcoin and Ethereum. But you still know that in those days, there's probably a big chances of you to say, well, rather it's good to sell prior to getting to the bear market, or to stand with them and at least have a good amount of money to make sure that in the next accumulation phase, you could double up essentially your portfolio. And the good thing is that right now we're just getting into the bull market. If you see right there, this is the starting of the green. So what are the opportunities lying? This is not only a great one for the 4th cycle, but maybe the 5th cycle and cycles to come. We are very excited to see how Web3 is a bit the replica of Web 2 and what has happened. Again, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. So if you look at today, the total amount of users, essentially, of internet, of Web 2, it's 5.2 billion people. What if I tell you that 90% of those people actually are social media users? And what if I tell you that 60% of those users are actually gamers? And this is a bit where I wanted to get to, is Web3 will have exactly the same amount of thing. We know that a lot of people will not necessarily get into DeFi, right? DeFi is not the most, that doesn't talk to everyone, right? No one really wants to trade and buy and do all of that and go and do staking or restaking and figure out how to do these different swaps whatsoever. What people want to do is enjoy by playing video games, enjoy doing social media and changing their status and the way how they live. And this is why we strongly believe that the gaming sector and really essentially GameFi and SocialFi will be a very huge narrative of the next 4th cycle and ones to come going forward, bringing real mass adoption to the world. Now let's look at the market provision in 2024. What usually always happens, and this goes very well for the current cycle, the 4th cycle, is Bitcoin is king. Bitcoin is king because Bitcoin is somewhere the first one that got into the market, that all the people know about it. Countries, companies have them on their balance sheets, and therefore it's just the most common one, the digital gold, and we know all about that. the ETF will be approved probably first. And therefore, all the money will be concentrating going into Bitcoin. And that's why Bitcoin currently is pumping, where the others are not necessarily pumping. There's a very small amount of pump on the other ones. So first for the king. What happens right after the king is the queen, Ethereum. So people will then approve essentially the ETF of Ethereum. More money will be coming into this market. And when I'm saying more market, think about this like China. China until 2010, there was no stock market whatsoever. And starting, the country was very closed, or Eastern Europe in the 89s or whatsoever. All of these crypto market was very closed, only for people that were on SwissBorg, Binance, or Coinbase or whatsoever, or some few hedge funds, right? So now it's the door that's just going to inject a huge amount of liquidity, especially more with all the macro that we talked about it, with the fact of people going more to riskier assets in 2024. We will see a big amount of money that will go in these twos. When these two will probably go to all-time highs, where do we figure out next? Well, then the other blockchains. We know extremely well that Ethereum is doing a great job, but there's a lot more on it. There's a lot of transactions that happen on L2s, such as Arbitrum, Optimism. We covered this already 2 weeks ago if you want to check out the video. And what we have to understand as well is that we have a lot of different other ones that are doing a fantastic job, such as Solana. We talked about Thematics and how we're better than SEX, right? And how these different layer ones are essentially bringing relative value. So for that, the best of blockchain is definitely a great product for this. But what I see right after, which is very important, is different GameFis. We talked about why GameFi, it just makes so much sense. And there's more and more super cool games like Star Atlas and AAA games like them that are coming out, but some as well just fun games that will hopefully bring a lot of people to use them will bring it. Social files such as Favor or different other things that are on CyberConnect that could be as well very well on Lens Protocol that we love so much. And on top of that, that could be done on other different type of great social media applications that could bring something different like Friendtext and a lot of different other things that are being tested as we speak. Last but not least, because everyone talks about it and we are seeing the chat GPTs and how this is being organized on the infrastructure layer, how it could be changed, but as well how it could be played into essentially blockchain in so many different ways. AI is a huge component. We all know that this is here to stay, and we know that there's a lot of render and a lot of different projects that have real AI infrastructure play or AI socialized way to do this in a different way. AI chat GPT itself, it talks about tokens all the time. Sam Altman, if you guys remember, is still in WorldCoin, which we don't recommend at all to look into this project so much. But it's at least seeing that crypto will be involved with AI. Last but not least, I think so these are the fundamentals that are very important to have. Those have been in the business not only for a long time, but have been providing a service to a huge community for a long time, and that are profitable companies and that have great token economics next to that. And these are the ones that, like for example, Aave, MakerDAO, SwissBorg, and other different companies that are very touched to DeFi, because DeFi has been, for now, let's say the best, I would say, business model, and with L1s as well, because they're essentially someone building an application on top of L1. There's a transaction, and the transactions essentially helps validators to make money out of it. So these are, for me, the best way that things should be played in 2024 is stick with your queen and with your king. Try to look into the best blockchains, GameFi, SocialFi, and AI, because essentially when you get all this new money in, then this money goes into different decentralized applications that use essentially Ethereum or these other different blockchain. And then essentially you have essentially a lot of different old-time comers that will do an old-time comeback for sure, because they have been proven to their community that they've done already a great amount of great work. So what is next for crypto? The bottom-up approach. How do we find those best different tokens? And we're going to have a really full video just on this with Anthony and the team. So I'm just going to go just into the 5 Ps, what we say. And often what we do is we try to check out price. This is the first thing that we look at. Price is a good way to see, well, is the token good investment or not? Then we look at people. Who are the team behind the people? What is their track record? Have they been very successful in Web 2 or Web 3? Then we try to look at the privileges, essentially what is the token used for? Is there different cool things that you could do within the tokens or not or not? Then you look essentially for the philosophy of the product itself to understand if the mission has a great B2C action within the blockchain space, if the product, which stage is it and how it's done. And last but not least, to understand essentially the popularity, to see if there's growth mechanisms, who's behind it, are there a lot of users, are there tractions? And essentially you could do this in a format that enables you to ask all these questions. That this will be basically publicly available for anyone for a lot of different projects like that. We could crowdsource a lot of projects and get essentially different marks to understand if these tokens are well positioned to be good investments or not. Obviously, it's, you never could make it right or wrong perfectly. There's no crystal ball to it. But if you look really carefully into different scoring methodology, you could really start understanding essentially how to connect those 5 Ps, which make a fantastic bottom-up approach. With SwissBorg, as you guys know, we do this hard work for the early gems. There's been Favor, there's been XBorg, and now there's GooPool. And I think what is very nice about GooPool is that it's the liquid staking token for Avalanche, which today is still one of the biggest L1s in terms of DeFi. It has approximately, I think so, 700 million a total value locked into their system. They do have actually a competitor, but we still believe that the Avalanche ecosystem is really growing. GooPool has been really due diligence by SwissBorg and believe that the technology is really great. And that essentially liquid staking will only grow with Avalanche, which is still a very niche market for them. So this is what we think is great. Obviously, the total market cap is very small. Here in this people that were able to participate, congrats, you got it at a great discount too, which I think so. This is something very good, and we'll be looking forward to use GooPool, not only to invest in it, but to use it as a great way for offering liquid staking through SwissBorg. So if you look now into the early deal itself, well, essentially there was different vaults. There was one for the super users of essentially GooPool and AVAX, which essentially people were staking AVAX. There was a public one with Borg that went within a few seconds. There was as well for the Hero and the Pegasus that had a little bit bigger size, which is really great. What I liked about this is that it's a already existing project. The lookup, it's only 12 months, which is really, really good. There was a discount of approximately 35%, I think so 40%, which was really good too. And this is a project that we believe is really going to grow going forward because, well, liquid staking is big. Avalanche is still the 4th biggest L1 in terms of TVL. There's a lot of projects that are built on it, and we believe that their product is very different from the competitors and has a lot of room to grow. What is very interesting as well is the ugly and the good. We just talked about this a little bit, but I think so this one is very important. A lot of people look at alpha opportunities in different ways. People think it's only early stage projects and that have no token yet, and you get into the earliest deal. Or it could be as well something that is distressed assets. And distressed assets could come from a lot of different forms. Could come from a company that has issued its token, a little bit like GooPool to some extent, and that is willing to offer a discount because it's in a place that it wants to grow. And I think so this is what is very nice is that, well, both have a low valuation that we know. The vesting and liquidity usually for the ventures is much higher. And for the liquidity for the distressed assets, usually much lower. We see that's 12 months versus Favor, which was 24 months. Ventures is true that you have more hype around it, which is true. Though the stage of the company, which is in distressed assets, is always usually at a better place because they already have quite a nice track record. And in terms of funding, well, I think so. It depends on each companies, but I think so. This is very important, and this is what I like to show you guys as well. For those who participated in SwissBorg and the ICO, they did a good investment. Those, though, however, who have invested in 2019 and at the peak had done a 200x. And I think so. I did that with ATH Lend, for example, and I did that for other different tokens in my life, which is that I don't necessarily always go onto the new things. I try to rebuild positions where I feel confident that they're a great business. The narrative around it will probably work, or it will not necessarily work, but we know that it will grow again because it already has a huge big play into the blockchain space. And this is why you should really look at great opportunities of super big discounts. A lot of tokens are down 80%, even 90%. And if that is the truth, that means you need a 10x to go back, right? A 10x to go back to all-time high, that's a huge, great opportunity. That's if you put 1,000 francs or euros, that means you get to 10,000 at all-time highs, right? And that means just the same price as the previous cycle. So I think so. This is something really to take carefully in. New is not always better. Sometimes it's good to go back to basics. Last but not least, if you don't want to do this, there's the thematics. And I think so. This is something that's very important. We know that these thematics right now are well positioned, like 40% since the launch of the best blockchains, doing very well, a bit better than its benchmark itself, or it's compared to its benchmark, and similar to what's happening with hard money, with the Bitcoin and the gold. So the fusion of those two worlds, old school meets new school, and we're seeing that right now essentially is doing a little bit better than its benchmark itself, which is really good, and we're up since August around 25%, which is nice, I think so, with a very low risk than its benchmark itself. And we haven't released this yet, but if we had, we would have made a killing essentially on the gaming. There's different essentially tokens in it. This not is necessarily the one we'll be releasing, but we had this internally for testing reasons, of course. And unfortunately, this doing a killing, 80% up since the last 3 months. And last but not least, I think so, this is what we're going to give you going forward, is to build this portfolio construction. Is the core and the satellite. We talked about the king, the queen, and the Borg, and then talking about all the different other tokens that you guys should have. And I think so it's very healthy to have a balance between both of them. Some people do 50-50%, some of the people do more. It depends as well the trends, like right now I still think 50-50 makes sense. Maybe 6 months from now when the king and the queen have exploded, it'll be nice to have maybe a 70-30, right? Some of it your Bitcoin and some of your Ether, getting to more risky assets, and then go back into, before the end of the bull, go back into essentially your king and queen, get a little bit less volatile on the satellite parts, and then eventually be able to turn those profits into gold or other stable coins. Last but not least, we're talking about now the regular SwissBorg things. Question of the week, ETF, is this good or not for SwissBorg? I think so. It's very good. It's going to bring a lot of money. It's definitely going to take out some people out to SwissBorg. I would say the people haven't gone yet, but that's fine. Look, we don't need to be 5 billion on SwissBorg, right? If tomorrow we're 5 million users on SwissBorg, that's already a big amount of users. And I think that those who don't want to understand what crypto is, they probably will go into an ETF first. And then I think so, as we start to grow into Web3 and making this more and more common and the product getting better, all of that, these people eventually are going to come for the right reasons, which is governance, which is enable them not to get only into the big, queen and king, but other different tokens, and be able to be part of the SwissBorg community. So I think so it's actually a good way to bring in new money, new fresh money, new interest as well. And then when these people graduate from ETF, will then eventually get into SwissBorg in a greater way. Want to shout out to our buddy Nicolas Dulex. Thank you so much for his wonderful pictures. You're a true artist, a true friend, and thank you as well for everyone that helped. Of course, in Geneva and Lausanne last week, it was really great to be in both places, which were really, really great. And Gotham, of course, and of course l'UNIG, University of Geneva, was really cool to have to host over there. So thank for everyone for making this possible, and let's do it again very soon. Next community events, talking about events, we will have one on the 14th, which will be in Geneva, which will be decentralized. So everyone in Geneva, Lausanne, France, whatsoever, will have a big Christmas party on the 14th. please show up. But within that, we have this Thursday a London meetup with Claire. Lovely Claire will be hosting this, so please check it out. It will be at the Brewdog Waterloo, which is, by the way, the community beer of the world. So looking forward to that. And last but not least, tomorrow we're having the Guardian Town Hall 8th meeting. And talking about the Guardians, I really want to thank them to putting this new pot where essentially if you are into the app and you refer someone who deposits and buys essentially 77.7 Borg, he will then receive 100 Borg at the end of the campaign. So this is a good way to bring more people to buy Borg and to get finally into our lovely community members. So I love this new referral system bonus. Please make it happen. Definitely I will for Christmas. Weekly and Borg data, we have almost 350 plus people into the SwissBorg ecosystem, and wait for the community next. Super bullish today. And the reason is that, yes, the bull is here. Everything is up. Everything is green. You know what I mean. Dear Borgers, I couldn't be more excited about the future, that it's super bright and we're finally seeing it. I hope you guys are in the green. If you're not yet, it's about to come. This next couple of months, we're going to go through a crazy ride. There's going to be a lot of ups. There's going to be a lot of downs. It's going to be volatile. But we know that with all this new net money coming into it, with all the macro picture going into this favor, it's going to really help us to finally again show that, you know, not only we were early, but we did the right step to be courageous, to finally be able to front run the big guys and the big guns. And hopefully going forward is how to understand how to build this wealth, as I just explained in these videos. If you have any comments, any questions about this, I'll love to go into many of these subjects with Anthony, Jeremy, and other people, and Christoph too, how to build essentially your portfolio in a better way. In the meantime, as always, guys, share this love with everyone. Make sure that people are getting to register. Make sure that they're waking up your neighbors, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your cousins, and all the people that you meet in the subway, the buses, the trains. The train is about to take off and it's going to go rapidly. It's going to go crazy and it's going to bring us a lot of nice surprises. As always, be healthy, be wealthy. Love our Borg and our equity. Take care, guys. Bye.
Through SwissBorg, all assets will have a fiat gateway. And here is the thing.
Premium features gives you 0 fee trading.
It's an amazing fiat gateway.